Bitcoin has seen a little bit of a push to the upside here on the 4-hour time frame, and we are going to be jumping into what this might mean for the slightly longer term for BTC. So do stick around as we have some interesting news as well. As always, if you find it useful, smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, guys. Let's jump down into the charts. So here we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're on the 4-hour time frame, and we have seen a little bit of a move to the upside. If I just zoom in here a little bit, you can see at the point of recording this video, we are pushing to try to get a closed position above the 200 4-hourly EMA, the exponential moving average. Now, this exponential moving average is our trend filter. I was talking about this yesterday, probably the day before that as well. If we can get a closed position above that 200 EMA, that's going to put us in a more bullish position. However, the bears are going to be looking at this, trying to keep the price down lower, trying to suppress us, and trying to basically make sure we have a negative close below the 200 EMA. So this 200 EMA is going to be absolutely critical, right? And currently, the 200 EMA comes in at 65,834 USDT on the Binance time frame, or the Binance chart 4-hour time frame. And so, yeah, we're looking at this and potentially move to the upside. One of the things that we do need to kind of consider, though, is that we are still in the lower lows and the lower highs. Okay, we are still in this bearish tail at the moment, and we still are looking for either a breakout or a breakdown. I've been through this a number of different times. Okay, we have a breakout, breakdown kind of situation. Those are what we look to trade, right? If we do get a close above this 200 EMA, that's going to be signaling a long position. We'll probably put our stop loss down lower than the the 50 EMA, just down here, probably lower than the swing low, and we'll target out that next area of resistance, which is going to be approximately around here at 68,889, which will give us about a 1.48 risk reward ratio. We can adjust these numbers ever so slightly depending on where entry is, but you kind of get the idea. We want ideally at least 1.5 on a long position, and that's how I would be looking at doing this one, looking to break out from here, looking at those higher levels. And I'll talk about the macro view in just a moment, because those macro numbers are very important. We are, of course, targeting out slightly higher in the price chart on the daily time frame. So on the 4-hour, we might see a little bit of volatility here before we finally actually get that run. But if we are able to get this close here, it could be setting us up for a pretty decent explosive move towards our targeted range on BTC. Now, on here, if we take a look at our stochastics, you can see, of course, the 4-hour stochastic RSI is back up in the overbought area after a bit of a cooling off yesterday. And we still have more room to the upside, so we might find ourselves with that closed position. The 1-hour stochastic, though, is already seeing a negative cross on the smoothing of K. That is our white line. The yellow line, of course, dipping down lower than that longer term average. So here we can see that we are going to be looking for a bit of a move to the downside on this one. We will be looking for this slippage on terms of momentum. That might mean that we get a close below the 200 EMA on that 4-hour time frame. Okay, if we take a look here, we can see that we're already kind of finding support on our hourly 200 EMA, so that's looking pretty good. As you can kind of see here, we've had this recent surge upwards. We might be looking to just have a quick correction on our 1 hour before we get into that 4-hour rally. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. The 8-hour time frame, however, is of course up in this overbought. It's been there for a while and is finding resistance right here on our 50 simple moving average. That's the yellow line. But again, we're above the 200 EMA now, so we're looking pretty good on the 8-hour time frame as well, but I expect to see some volatility, right? So let's take this up into the daily. What was I talking about, and why am I still looking for moves to the upside? We can already see that we are, of course, testing out this area, right? This is our stochastic RSI, and if we could see this as a potential trend, this is where we'll get rejected from before rallying back up again. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting thing. If we get a breakout here, again, we'll be looking at coming right up into that overbought range on our daily stochastic RSI. From a price point of view, we can see here as well that we are targeting out our slightly higher range, which happens to be $68,000 to $69,000. Okay, this is a little bit above the 50 simple moving average on the daily time frame. I went through this yesterday and I'll go through it again today, just for anyone who missed yesterday's video. We are, of course, taking a look at this as a 3-wave correction, which means we're likely to find rejection up here at that 68, 69K, and we are looking looking at coming down towards our 55,000, which will coincide with our daily 200 exponential moving average. Okay, so we can see it right here. This is a very simple three-wave correction. And I do want to stress at this point, although that might be negative in terms of price action, it's actually incredibly bullish, because what that is indicating to us is we're not in a trend to the downside. We're actually in a short-term correction to the downside. And that is huge, huge opportunity. And I want to stress that, because opportunity like this doesn't always come around. You might find yourselves always buying the tops of things. This particular correction that Bitcoin finds itself in is actually a huge opportunity to dollar cost average, not only into BTC, but also many of those altcoins, which gives a fantastic ROI in the longer term. Okay, so when we take a look at the chart here, yes, we are talking about just having a little bit more of a dip to the downside. As long as we stay above the 200 daily EMA, we remain bullish, and those bullish movements and the bullish momentum to the upside is still technically there. The overlapping nature of all of the candlesticks that we're seeing inside the price action as well is also an indication of short-term movements and nothing longer term. So here on the daily time frame, things are not actually looking overly bad. I think these are actually looking pretty decent. And so we are, of course, looking for this move down, but it is going to be presenting itself with huge opportunity in the longer term. So all in all, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too worried about what is going on when it comes to the price action of BTC. It does, to me, look like we're actually in a pretty reasonable position on Bitcoin, and I do think it's likely to kind of play out quite nicely. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the latest news of what is going on when it comes to Bitcoin, right? Because we have seen that BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF hits a 69 days of inflows on the halving day itself, right? So we have seen some pretty interesting things. Now, in this one, although there isn't actually a lot of news kind of going on and around, you know, Bitcoin at the moment, it's been trading sideways. There are some interesting things going on here, if we take a look, we can see, you know, lots of these ETFs that are having zero or kind of negative withdrawals in terms of Bitcoin. You've got this by day as well, and you can kind of see the total at the bottom as well. Now, what's really interesting is it does seem to divide opinions on whether or not Bitcoin ETF performance is positive or negative, right? Because there is a lot of concern around how many of these ETFs aren't really seeing significant amounts of flow to them. And as indicated, obviously, on the charts here as well, we can see how it's become quite stagnant, right? We had that initial surge to the upside, but it hasn't really kind of had longevity to it. And instead, you find there's little bits coming in, little bits coming out, and it's kind of being rather neutral, right? So dividing opinions as to whether the Bitcoin spot ETFs are going to rally on back up and we're going to see explosive growth, or whether or not these things are just going to fizzle out. And that's really what's going on in this article, and essentially here, right? But it's really, really tiny, right? And the amount of actual holders, right? 0.4 in the IBIT, 60 holders reported, but only account for about 0.4% of the total shares out there. And it's really interesting. It shows that basically there are bites, there are nibbles, but you haven't had any kind of major interest. And there's a lot of fish in the market. There's lots of people looking at these things, but there's only really people like testing the waters, seeing what it's kind of like at the moment. And so I think we're going to see some interesting things over the coming kind of weeks and months, because I think with Bitcoin's halving event, that's going to also add a little bit more media to it. And we haven't really had any of that mainstream attention just yet. I do think it is coming though. And I think that's going to be bringing in a lot more FOMO, people who will be will hold the fear of missing out and all that kind of stuff. So from the price action to the news to the kind of fundamentals, I think Bitcoin is an opportunity. We find ourselves to be dollar cost averaging and buying into what is going on with BTC right now. And I think that is something not to be missed. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And why don't you check out this video right here where we discuss a little bit more of some of the stuff that's going on in the crypto space.